Are you searching for where you can find the latest news and breaking news today for U.S., world, weather, entertainment, politics, and health? Visit us at www.thenubiannews.com. The Nubian News, loving the Black perspective.
Good evening. I am Kamau Kujichagulia, and this is On the Case with Kamau Kujichagulia. Each week here on our YouTube and Facebook page and on our website, the Nubiannews.com, we present to our listening audience live from Trenton, New Jersey, some of the people and movers right here in the city. Tonight we have with us running for North Ward Council, our good brother, Divine Allah. What's up, brother? How you doing?
How you doing, beloved? Dear elder, how you doing?
Well, we're doing very well here. You know, yeah. You're out there running for city council.
I ain't running for or from nothing, beloved. We campaigning. We galvanizing the community, brother. Okay. We're not running. Everybody else is running and trying to catch up with me.
All right. So you're campaigning.
That's right.
Okay. Well, for our viewers who may not know you, tell us a little bit, who is Divine Allah?
First, I want to say I'm your little brother, or I'm your son, dear elder. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm also the fourth child of Mrs. Betty and Horace Bethea. And I'm just a servant in the community, man. Been here a long time, born and raised, educated in the Trenton parochial and a small time in the public school system, but born and raised right here in the North Trenton community. Actually, the hospital that I was born in is about to be torn down, St. Francis Hospital. Born and raised since 1972, one of those 70s babies, making my way through the 80s, coming up into a degree of knowledge and consciousness of myself as a young Black man in a community like Trenton. And I'm here now, striving to be a better ambassador for those who know things need to be done in the community, man.
Okay, well, you said a couple of things that I need to get with you on, but tell me a little bit about you say you were raised as a young Black man in Trenton. What does that mean?
Well, that means I had to deal with the many layers, the many issues that come with attempting to navigate through what you and I know, this ghetto world. Unfortunately, Trenton is designed as a ghetto, and many brothers my age, have attempted to chip at ways they can navigate, and they've lost their lives due to street violence or poor health. So I fit right in the middle of that, and I'm striving to be that point of inspiration for folks to know that we still can push. We still have a long way to go, but somebody is here to continue to fight. And I'm striving to do this in the political arena now. Many years I've spent almost parallel, not outside the political arena, and you know this, parallel to the political arena, wanting to put things on those politicians' mind, wanting to bring things to the table. But if they didn't want to do it, we just kept on pushing, and we still here.
I know for a long time, you've pretty much headed up the peace movement in Trenton, the nonviolence movement.
Yes.
In Trenton. What is that about?
You said exactly what it is. It's about promoting peace. It's about promoting nonviolence, stopping the killing among our young brothers and sisters and adults. It's not just the young brothers out there. It's the adults, and it's the extended community outside of the families. And unfortunately, I was part of that problem, late 80s, early 90s. And I decided once I got that trigger turned on, and believe it or not, brother, you were part of that trigger being turned on. You were one of the first brothers I saw raise the red, black, and green flag in front of your home. And knowing that there was a connection to what I was learning and to what I saw you doing and many other brothers who were around at that time, I said, I got to be involved in that fight too. I got to be involved in that struggle too to stop some of this madness that was going on among my generation then. We had a mayor at the time who was willing to come and sit and talk with us. We had the North Trenton versus Wilbur section. I was right in the mix of that. And I decided to, again, be an ambassador moving forward so we can put an end to that madness and that sadness out there. And unfortunately, it's still going on. And part of our platform, the Divine for Counsel platform, is to address that issue of violence in the community. But it's public safety that we have to address all the way around, not just when it ends up as a shooting on the corner. There's many layers that happens way before it happens on the corner.
Okay. Now, you speak of the street violence, the black on black violence. I don't know if that's the case, but
So-called black on black.
Right. What it affects us. It affects the entire community, even though a lot of the community doesn't realize that it affects them. It affects the entire community. What causes this?
Number one will always be the miseducation or no education, the poverty, the unemployment, and the layers of racism / white supremacy that we have to deal with on a daily and consistent basis. All of those things are going on in a young man, a young woman's, a young family's head before they argue with each other in the house, before they take that out in front of their home, before they create problems on their job place, on their workplace, and before they create problems anywhere else. It happens here. And we've been miseducated as a people, unfortunately. A lot of that miseducation bottled up with poverty, bottled up with unemployment, bottled up with dysfunction. Here's what we are dealing with out here in the streets now. And no politician, the ones who only want to be politicians, they don't want to be elected activists. No politician really addresses, deals with, and confronts that issue from the historical trail that leads to the young brother wanting to go shoot another brother. None of them have ever addressed it in that way. So we've decided to step up and repair that missing space and add the extra piece to the puzzle that's been missing when it comes to attempting to stop this madness in the street, because that's what it ends up being, madness on both sides, the victim and the person who pulls the trigger.
Yeah, I've spoken with people, and recently I've come to understand that there's a cycle. There's a cycle of violence. Something happened, but then there's a response to that violence. And to me, it's understandable, because I know if someone did something to one of mine,
go ahead,
I want to go get one of theirs, okay, or them, okay. How can we break that cycle? Is there a way to break that cycle?
Well, again, you mentioned it's a cycle. It's been happening before you were born, before I was born.
Right.
The best we can do is attempt to plant seeds in the soil, water them as best we can, as much as we can, and how we say, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, as long as we're still existing in these communities that we exist in. I know families who are not ever going to leave the city of Trenton. It's not even on their mind. So they have to exist in this ghetto, under poverty, under capitalism, under racism, white supremacy, under police harassment, under institutionalized miseducation. If they have to exist in that, you kind of can guarantee the toxicity that exists out there. But those of us who know, those of us who are not afraid, those of us who are sincere and have a bit of authenticity to go out there. Just before I'm logging on to you, brother, we were just out at a vigil on the street of a recent situation. Just before logging on to you, we were over there in South Trenton in the South Ward, because we care. We have to care. I have not lost anyone in my immediate family, blessed, but because I care, because I know that world, I know that life, it's something in me that just says, man, get on out there and speak some love, speak some life into our brothers, speak some life into these young sisters, speak some life into those families who look out the window when we out there with our bullhorn. Speak some life into them. That's the best we can do. Once you know, you're responsible to what you know. And being that I know how to get involved and get out there in front of the situation, and I'm not afraid to. Unfortunately, too many folks have stepped in front of us attempting to be leaders, calling themselves leaders and activists. There's a difference in between being a political activist, an organizer. But when you talk about community activists, something that really takes you to that street corner, that's different. And I know I have that, and I'm willing to bring much of that to city council members, the mayor. We can't answer everything. We're not going to beat ourselves over the head trying to be the end all be all to the so-called black on black violence. But we can put our minds, we can put our bodies together to attempt to address this in a real way, and not just in a reactive manner. Proactive means we have to address all the trauma that happens from the home, the dysfunctional family, the broken family, out into the school, out into the community, out into the business owners. All of that is a part of it. When you study this thing like we have, I'm quite sure you have over the years, is not just the young man on the corner that ends up committing the crime. You can trace him going to that corner to the corner store. You can trace him to the corner store to the church. You can chase the church to the corner store to the young man, to some drama that's going on in the household, something that took place in school, something that took place years ago. You can trace a lot of this stuff. 2022, you still have young brothers talking about they beefing with Wilbur section and they from North Trenton. Like, unfortunately,
their family from Wilbur section, you know.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Now, as you've been saying, you've been out there as a community activist for years, and I've loved what you've done out there on our streets. Because you've done it with love. You know, very few people do anything with love when it comes to Black people. So how are you translating that into becoming a politician? I put that in quotes because I know you ain't gonna be no politician.
That's right, brother. I'm not striving to be no politician. I'm striving to be a better point of reference and a greater ambassador among the young brothers and young sisters, where they can see this person is real enough that I can approach. Part of my platform speaks to when I become counsel, you become counsel. Brother, if you're thinking about doing anything that's going to bring trauma to this community, especially the North Ward, think twice, because now you have someone you can really reach, you have access to, and you can talk to before you go commit something that's going to bring strife to your family. Usually we don't have that in our communities. So me saying when I become counsel, you become counsel, my advocacy, my direct approach, my humble approach, and my real approach is what is going to attract people to that booth on election day and said, this is a young man that's, one, believable. He's not politics as usual. He speaks truth to power, and he's really sincere when he's out among these young brothers. Many of them are not voters. They're not thinking about the political system in no form or fashion. However, when they see a divine Allah, something triggers like it triggered when I was a young man cutting up. You have to, excite that thing in that young brother or sister that's out there. Even some of the adults who are out there, you got to excite it. You got to incite it. You got to offer them something that's different than the usual. And when people relate to that, hopefully they'll go out and vote. But beyond election day, they know they can relate to someone who is authentic in getting things done in the community. Now, people still, to this day, they're calling me, the people's chant, our local mayor, our local council person. People still call because they understand this is somebody that I know is serious, always out there on the front line. You don't have to worry about where divine Allah is at when things are going on in the community. And that's not just the issue of public safety or so-called black on black violence. It's other issues also. We've been on those front lines, and it's just something that's in me. Once it was turned on, it's been turned on, brother. And that's why I'm here now, attempting to put this piece in a different position on this chessboard, but in the political arena.
Okay. Now, when you are on city council, what will you do or say or advocate to the Trenton public school system?
Well, the main thing is our children and their proper education, not just education, proper education. That means it's tied to some type of historical relevance, historical frame of reference. The schools are largely now Black and Latino. This week we're celebrating Latino Heritage Week. We need to start doing more in the area of Black heritage, or what many people call African heritage, African American heritage. We need to do more in that area, because anybody can tell you that when a child feels good about himself, when he sees him or herself in a positive fashion, a positive light over time, the way his education is received, that intake, it's processed better when he walks into a school building and he sees himself on the wall, not just as a gym teacher, when he sees himself on the wall and not just a ball player, when he sees himself on the wall as a scientist, as an engineer, the way he processes that is, that's what I want to be like. That's what I want to become. So fixing that educational system, we got to dig deeper into the proper education of our children. And it's already on the books. We got to make sure laws and policy is being followed. The Amistad bill that was passed in 2001 made policy on paper in 2003 is not being adhered to, especially here, state of New Jersey, especially here in the city of Trenton, because it brings out something in our children, and it brings out something in the administration that a lot of people don't want to deal with. But we're going to have to deal with it one way or another. Now it's being offset with the talk of critical race theory, but our people need to be taught the truth. And when you're taught the truth about who you are, when you're taught the truth about who you are when it comes to politics, the truth about who you are when it comes to power, the truth about who you are when it comes to education, and it's not just brushed over and given a smaller period of time to be celebrated. When you're taught the truth, it does something to you. It opens up this drive inside of you. And by design, there's no proper education because they don't want that drive to be given to our children. It's simple.
So along that line, when you're on council and the mayor presents to you people for the school board, if they don't get an elected school board, if you don't believe that that person is going to be revolutionizing the education system, would you go ahead and approve them anyway?
I'm glad you said it that way. It's simple. Revolution means complete constructive change. And if this person is just a rubber stamp person for the mayor or whoever else that wants them there, bye. And again, we have to be that staunch and we have to be that bold when it comes to that, because what's on the line? Trenton Public Schools has a mission statement. City of Trenton has a mission statement. If we want our children to be better citizens for our future, for their future, we have to make sure whoever and whatever we're putting in place for them as they grow has to be the right person and has to be the right things. And we can't just rubber stamp what people throw out in front of us. And this is what we haven't had for so long. And here we are now with a chance to, at the very least, have someone who's not just to go along to get along. I don't scratch where I don't itch. I don't skin and grin. This is about the serious upliftment of our people first. And I'm a candidate that's not afraid to say that. Our people are suffering in this city of Trenton, have been for some time. It's 2022. We're still afraid to speak truth to power. We're still afraid to say why we need Black political power in a city like Trenton, when everybody else, study the history, everybody else still 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, other families, other ethnicities reap benefits off of things they've built in this city and people they've put in place in this city, in that educational arena, political arena, even in the religious arena. People have been propped up. And look at the condition of us now in 2022. And now you have a candidate that's all right, y'all, let's look at this thing, move some pieces out the way, and let's put some fresh perspective there. Let's put some experience that's tied to authenticity, because you can have the experience. Many of those who've come before us have the experience, come before me have the experience, but look at where their experience have gotten us.
Okay. You mentioned a little bit earlier about the tearing down of a hospital.
Yes.
What do you mean by that? What's that about?
I just saw the St. Francis Hospital. They just had a report about getting rid of that over in the East Ward, St. Francis Hospital. I don't know or haven't heard of any redevelopment yet, but obviously if they're tearing that down, that large space, and it exists over in a community that's now basically on the come up. If you look at that area, it's a large Latino community over there. So obviously there's some things being planned, just like over in the West Ward with the old Mercer Hospital. That's now, I believe, it's owned by Capital Health. They have some development they're planning over in that area. And if you look at the backdrop or the small print of the redevelopment that's going on over in West Ward near that Mercer Hospital, some of the names are some of the what I was alluding to, or who I was alluding to, the names who reap benefits but have left crumbs for those of us who are struggling and suffering. Those names are attached to it. Even though redevelopment is good, gentrification, is not about gentrification, it's about repopulation. And if we're not going to have anything for those who are not leaving, they're not getting up, they're not thinking about moving, we have to make sure whatever type of development is coming to this community benefits those who live here, have children here, have children who want to come back from college after they've gotten their degrees, whatever they're doing. They want to stay here and help rebuild. That's what redevelopment has to be about. Not just about putting up a nice, cute structure, but redevelopment is also redeveloping the minds of those who are still here in the community.
Okay. Now, I know a few months ago, Capital Health came out with a statement that they were in the process of buying out St. Francis.
Okay.
Also, just the other day, Capital Health came out with the proposal of doing like a $10 million program over in the North Ward.
Okay.
Have you been contacted about that?
Well, I've not been contacted, but I've been a part of one of the, it's called the Future of North Ward. They had a recent event over at the Trenton Country Club, and they had the Trenton Housing Authority there. They had Capital Health. They had Greater Trenton and some other folks who are all going to be a part of that. It's already happening. Again, a lot of these things they were publicized, but on a smaller scale. So some people were privy to it. They showed up to the meetings. They saw some of the diagrams or the graphs they presented. It's nice. Again, redevelopment, it should happen. And what they have planned for that area of Donnelly Homes, that area of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, coming down through what they call the corridor through the city, from Calhoun Street, where it meets Princeton Avenue or Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, all the way through the downtown area, which is all North Ward. They're going to be doing some redevelopment. It looks good on paper. And what the director of Donnelly Homes has been talking about, making sure that people are connected in that project community. They're going to open that space so the project doesn't seem like it's its own universe, its own world. They're going to open it up so it looks like it's a part of the community, like other communities have when they tore down a lot of their high rises. But again, you can put up a new building, you can build a new school, you can paint things all you want, but the minds of the people have to be developed. The health of the people have to be on point. If not, eventually the things will get torn down. So as city council, we have to make sure that we are healthy enough, we are vibrant enough, we are authentic enough to really engage the people a bit more. We have to communicate this information a bit more. Case in point, just in case you didn't know, the Donnelly Homes area, which was District 10 for the North Ward, has been basically snatched from under my feet and given over to the West Ward. It was given over to the West Ward. And again, that was part of one of those plans. They had a meeting. one of those midnight meetings, and they took that district and moved it into the West, and here we are.
Yeah. I was just getting ready to ask you about whether Donnelly Holmes was still in the North Ward. It seems like now the North Ward has switched over to the East Ward.
Yes, and some of the South Ward.
And South Ward, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's been extended further into the South, and it's gathered some small remnants of the East Ward area over near the Trenton train station at Greenwood Avenue, what we know historically as East Trenton. Some parts of Chambersburg, those are now in the North. It's a political game. It's part of the continued disenfranchisement and the what we call voter suppression. It's part of that. But again, our people have to become more politically astute and more educated about the political process, the election process, so they can be up on these things and not just, again, reacting once it happens. It's already in motion. That development on the boulevard in North, it's already in motion. All we can do now is figure out how we can get a lot of our young brothers who are stuck in the middle somewhere. They need employment to get them off the corner. I mean, gainful employment, not just a job. They need gainful employment. They need marketable skills. This is stuff that I heard when I was in my teens, when I heard first black mayor, marketable skills, a healthy start. It sounded good, but
it is good.
Actualization of those things.
Yeah, it has to happen.
That's right.
And I haven't seen it happen.
No, sir.
You know,
Yep.
It's been, I used to deal with the school board all the time, and 40 years ago. And whenever I go to a school board meeting now, I hear the exact same thing that I heard 40 years ago, and it's just that cycle.
Yeah, and that's a shame, brother, dear elder. It's a shame because 40 years, 20 years is a generation. So you're talking about two generations.
Right.
40 years ago, I was 9.
That's right.
So that means if I was striving to be inspired, what I was hearing, what you was hearing, it sounded good. But here we are 40 years later, 2 generations later, and none of that has actualized. It's only been actualized in other communities around the Trenton community, and Trenton has suffered. So now it's almost like you're looking at basically a dead carcass that needs life breathed back into it, surgical attention. And that's what the Divine for Counsel team is bringing to the table. We have to address public safety. Someone mentioned about things are being closed because of crime, but come on, there's enough police to go around. There's enough law enforcement to go around. But if we have law enforcement, things have to be enforced. It's simple logic, but someone wants the dead carcass to remain a dead carcass. They don't want that surgeon to really spend time on the heart and mind of the people who are living in these cities, especially city of Trenton. Elder and senior care is a vicious thing that's going on with our elders. Some of the stories I'm hearing knocking on these doors, man. Youth development and recreation, and quality of life. All of those things are intertwined. And before we get to that proper education, all of those things have to be lined up right next to them. One feeds off the other, feeds off the other, feeds off the other. But we keep going so hard into, let's develop. Let's bring business in. Bring business into what? People who are oppressed and impoverished. Bring business in just to what? To have us be more consumers.
All that sounds so good, and it sounds so good, and they present it like what? This is good, but it hasn't been good for us.
That's right.
It hasn't been good.
2 generations is a long time, brother.
Right. Yeah, it is a very long time. I equate that to, we lose 1,000 children every year through our school system. 1,000 children. In 40 years, we lost 40,000 children.
Yep.
And that rips apart a community.
Now, take that 40,000 and look at the number of elected or number of registered voters. It's around the same, 38,000 something
right.
registered voters.
Right.
So you mean to tell somewhere in that 40,000 children, you have parents unemployed. The median income in Trenton is just about $18,000. Who can survive? Everybody's just basically trying to. We're all in struggle mode. Nobody is really getting it. but a few people. And when you speak those type of things, our people, unfortunately, because of the apathy, they hear it. They're listening to you say it, but in the back of their mind, man, I still got to go to work. Brother, I believe in you. I still got to try to get this money. I'm trying to get this bag. Some of people out here working 2.5 jobs, big brother. And we expect them to just snap to attention because there's some new housing coming. Snap to attention because there's some pretty, street landscapes coming. And it should. It should. This is a city. It's worthy. A lot of money. Millions on top of millions on top of millions coming to this city. That budget, if you go through those line items, a lot of money. But somewhere, somehow, that dead carcass is not being resuscitated. So that's what Divine for Counsel is bringing to the table. Offer some resuscitation and offer some authenticity.
We wish you much success out there, brother, because I believe that if you get in that seat, you'll start changing some of the things that are going on in Trenton. But we've got to, I hate to cut this short, but we've got to go. But, we're going to have you back when,
no doubt,
once you get into office, when we can just sit down and we can just talk.
I appreciate it.
You have so much to say because you've done so much. You've seen so much. You've been there. Yeah. And I know the people out here in this city, they want to hear what you have to say. It's like you say, you don't cut your tongue off here, right?
Listen, man, I wasn't raised that way. Again, I watched you. I watched other Black businesses who are now institutions, the Amificas, the Big Easies, the Razor Sharp. Those are institutions. Why don't we have some type of Black business conglomerate so we can create our own Black PACs so we can start creating candidates and having succession and not having to scramble now that there's an election season? We have to do better politically. We will do better politically. We must do better politically. Like I said, when I become counsel, you become counsel. Supreme thanks for the opportunity, big brother. We're looking forward to this win on November the 8th. We're not thinking of a runoff. It's not part of our language. We going straight for this out the gate. Willfully, my opponents will understand that this is more than just wanting to be a politician. This is not a career move for Divine Allah. I don't need my name on the placard. The whole North Ward will be our city council office.
All right, brother.
Supreme salute, brother. Give thanks.
We thank you very much for being with us this week.
Yes, sir. Give thanks.
All right. Boy, that was Divine Allah I've seen him work for so long, and his works are really great. Next week, next Thursday, what's that, the 29th? We're going to have my good sister Stephanie Register, who is working within the rehab community, the getting our people off of drugs and alcohol and helping them to do that. Also next week, we're going to have a special second guest because time is getting short for these elections. We're going to have Sister Sherry Garrett, who is running for mayor. Okay, she's going to be part of our show next week also. So tune in again next week at 8 o'clock so that we can bring to you what is important, what is happening, what is critically important to all of us right here in the city of Trenton. Thank you very much.